everything's coming up greener.
Here's Harold Matthews. He is
The Garden Doctor. The Garden Doctor.
Hello and welcome to the Garden Doctor Show. We're live right here in TV3, and I was going to wear a sweater today because it's quite chilly out.
You're really cold. I'm freezing to death.
She just got back from New Hampshire, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm melting. It's so humid here. There's no humidity in New Hampshire.
Let me tell you, that's what makes it beautiful. You can sleep at night. You just open the windows.
50 degrees, and the curtains were blowing. It was absolutely gorgeous.
What was the daytime temperature?
70 something. It was supposed to get back into the 80s.
Yeah. And I'm here because I don't understand why we're here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You moved here. I moved here to be with you.
There you go. My garden, though, when we were harvesting my spring garden at here in Connorsville, in New Hampshire, there was still snow on the ground.
Yeah.
There was still 8 inches of snow
Their season
on
is
my
and
my
they're
aunt's.
almost done now, really, because the fall temperature, they said it feels like fall.
Well, the
Labor
cool
Day's
temperature
coming.
does really shorten the growing season that they have, and we do benefit from an extra 2 weeks and perhaps a month because it's not just the spring, but it's also the fall. I've actually gone all the way through until Thanksgiving without a frost.
But that doesn't happen up there.
No, that doesn't happen up there. No,
but they said they also had abundant growth, just like we did here, including the weeds. But the garden did well. Every vegetable and fruit we grew watermelons this year, even that were beautiful.
Yeah, and they're still coming on, of course.
Yeah.
We've got some gorgeous watermelons out there. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because a lot of the questions that we get are about the most popular, the most fruit that everybody grows, the vegetable, the tomato.
It's be a papaya.
Yeah, papaya. Yeah.
It should be for your health, but
really,
no.
it should.
But
tomato. The tomato, and people.
Which is a fruit.
Yeah, it's a fruit, not a vegetable.
Okay, right.
But I said both because people, when they think of the tomato, they think of it as being a vegetable, but it is actually a fruit.
And vegetables bear fruit anyway, so.
But knowing the root of a vegetable or fruit, you can better accommodate it with the environment that it needs. And tomatoes are a tropical, like the pepper, and they like more heat, more arid, and they like air circulation. They don't like to be crowded. Crowding is probably one of the major things that we do wrong with fruit.
Is that why you have me trim off some of the lower limbs as it's
for
growing
the air
up?
circulation, but also as soon as a limb looks like it's damaged, as soon as there's some deterioration there, some yellowing, and you know you're going to lose that limb, remove the limb, cut the limb, get it off there, and take it away from there. Put it in a compost that is away from there. Because
seems like you want to try to nurse it and get it back to health and mess with it. Just cut it off?
Just cut it off. I remove all of the lower ones because a lot of the splash comes up onto the lower foliage of the tomato plant.
It's muddy.
And that carries the disease that's in that soil. Now, if your soil contains a lot of this verticillium wilt and early wilt and Fusarium, the different diseases that attack the tomato plant, if it's in the soil, it'll get on the plant just by splashing, just by the water splashing.
Now there's cigarettes too.
Cigarettes is
he
death.
has a fit. Unfortunately I smoke, I admit it.
Tomato mosaic is death to a tomato. If you go
Stay away from them.
don't go anywhere near the tomatoes to harvest them, to work on them or anything till you wash your hands thoroughly, because this is really a major issue, and it's for real. You can wipe out a whole bunch of tomato plants real quick. Now, we have tomatoes right now that only have about 5 or 6 leaves way up on the top of them, and they're still producing.
Yes, they look weird, but they're producing. So
this year was a really unusual year for that. There was some periods of time where the watering was almost self-sufficient. because we space our tomatoes out, because we grow them on a fence, and because we mulch them
Yes.
and grow marigolds at the bottom of them and basil at the bottom, we're growing a lot of companion plants
Yes.
that keep things,
I like
the
that too.
environment better.
Right.
It makes the flavor of the tomatoes better. The basil really, really helps.
I think it sweetens them. I can
It does.
almost kind of
It's
taste
proven.
it in
It's
the
proven.
cherry
Yeah.
tomatoes.
If you grow next year, write this down. Put some basil over here with 5 tomato
Yep.
plants. Don't put basil over here with 5 tomato plants. Same exact plant, and you will taste the difference.
You're
There is
growing
definitely-
Italian tomatoes.
There you go.
But you have this little Charlie Brown looking tomato plant with a couple of tomatoes on it, and it's doing fine with
Yeah,
no leaves.
they're doing great. Now, if you notice that your tomatoes right now have the end of them are rotten, that you've got any rot on there whatsoever, then you need to put calcium on your tomatoes.
Okay, I had that one year, and you didn't have a lot of time to work with me on the garden. It was one of the early years, and that happened to almost all our tomatoes. Now that's calcium.
That was because we
calcium?
moved to a new lot.
Yes.
It was a new place that we were growing them for the first time. The area, the soil there, I had not tested, and it was deficient in iron, copper, and the calcium. So, but you can't repair that. You can't correct that immediately. Now there is a product called Blossom Set.
That, yeah. What's that blossom? Is that for
That's
blossom?
just
and
calcium, blossom end rot.
Now, yeah. How do you add calcium?
Well,
to your...
you're spraying this directly on the foliage. It's being
Okay.
absorbed by the foliage, goes directly into the fruit and the plant, and replaces it. But you have to keep doing this.
Right.
About every week or so, you want to spray it again. That's only a temporary fix. You want to put calcium on right now, and then put calcium on again in the fall.
Is it a powder?
Yeah,
or
it
something you
can be a
can-
granular. It can be a powder. It comes in. It's lime.
Oh, it is lime.
Lime,
so
yeah,
you
a
use
pelletized lime. And
Oh,
I
okay.
like to use both kinds of lime if you can find
This
both
one
kinds.
is short term and one's long
Dolomite,
term.
well, they have a little bit different chemical makeup. So if
Right.
you can find the Dolomite and the other one escapes me right now, but get both kinds of the calcium if it's available.
okay.
And then Green Earth. Now, Green Earth is pure form of the seaweed and so forth that is very rich in calcium and all the minerals, but it's the ancient seaweed that is like it's lime that is green because it's made primarily of seaweed.
Ancient like me.
No, not at all, dear. But we do have some ancient people. One of them is my granddaughter. She turned, what'd she turn? How much is
She turned
5?
4. Rowan had a 4th birthday. Yes, she's the little
Happy
wild
birthday,
one.
Rowan. I
Yeah.
didn't get to see you because you're down in Bloomington and you're doing
Yeah, we
all
will
of
see
these
you, and
things,
we
but
will
you better
have a
come up
birthday.
this weekend. And my mother
Yes.
is celebrating her
84th birthday tomorrow.
84th
yes.
birthday. I think she's parasailing off Mount Washington.
I don't think so. She was up kayaking. up
Down,
till-
yeah, up until just recently, and I think she's kind of given up on the yeah. Anyway,
Well, now we are live tonight. Is that correct, guys? We are a live show
we want to
tonight.
get
Yes,
some call-ins.
please call in.
Oh, and I want to apologize. I was not well the last couple of weeks. I didn't get to
No.
all the people. I did get to almost everybody, but there's 2 of you that I have not been to yet that had called in at the previous shows.
I could tell when I called. I've been out of town, brought my son back east to Rhode Island. He is well enough to go back to work now, pretty much, and be with his kids while they start school. So I've been gone, but I could tell talking to him on the phone, he's been in pretty rough shape. And I
Well,
didn't
that
know-
happens on occasion.
Yeah, what was going on? I think it was just because he missed
That's
me.
what it
but
was.
I'm
I
not
was-
sure because
yeah.
he's a lot better today.
I had anxiety issues.
Yes, our house got struck by
Oh,
lightning,
for crying
or real
out loud!
close
Like
to
the
it.
day after she left, the
Yes,
house gets
blue
struck
light bulbs out of the sockets,
Holy
crash. I'm
crap.
still finding glass.
Televisions went out.
Yep,
and
TV's gone.
All the phones went out. I didn't have a phone for like 8 days.
Yep, yep.
The
And then it
cable
fried
was
the
on,
cell
then it was
phone.
off. My cell phone.
Because it was plugged in charging at the time. We got struck by lightning.
Yeah,
So, and poor Toby is a nervous wreck. I don't know if he's ever going to get over it, but
Now, let me tell you the good part about lightning, though. The thing that we don't acknowledge enough of is that nature provides all of this stuff that we do to our tomatoes and our plants. nature provides it in different ways. Just like vitamins and minerals that you can buy over the counter, you can also get them through the fruits and the vegetables that you raise or that you get in the store. Now, the what you get from nitrogen or from lightning is nitrogen. It's electrostatic nitrogen, and it's a tremendous benefit to your plants. If you have metal cages or metal fences, and if they're attached in some way with something that will hold the static electricity, like nylon stockings, that's what we used to tie them up with for years and years and years. We used nylon stockings, not my own. I keep those, but I'd use other people donated, And so I would tie these up, and it gathers and traps that static electricity, and that is nitrogen. The other pure form, or a real good form, is snow. Now, when we get a good bank of snow, it puts a lot of nitrogen into the soil, and there's other minerals too.
Now, isn't it corn that depletes the soil of nitrogen?
Yeah, if you grow corn in a certain area, sweet corn in your yard, or if you're in a corn field, if you're building your house in a corn field.
That's why they rotate crops.
Yeah, they really should, and they. In some areas, I have, in some of the areas that I hunt down on the lake, I have seen them grow corn to the point where it's almost cardboard that they're growing the corn in, that they have to pump the nitrogen in up there. But we were talking about tomato plants and the lightning giving you
nitrogen
benefit.
Yeah.
And
but it's like your diet. If you don't eat enough vegetables to get all of those vitamins and minerals and nutrients that you need, if you can't get it from nature, you have to add it. And in our case would be in the form of a multivitamin, but in your garden would be in the case of lime, fertilizer, whatever else that you need.
You need to know what your soil needs, and I really strongly recommend a soil analysis. It doesn't cost that much. Get you some soil
What's it, like
samples.
$10 or something?
Do it right. I don't even know what it is now. You can go online, you can set it off, or you can go to the local extension office. They'll provide you with a package, and they'll run it up to Purdue and run all the tests and things, and then you will know exactly. And you got to tell them what it is you're doing there. You got to tell them that you're growing all these different vegetables, and take the sample correctly as directed, and then you'll know where you stand, and they can recommend for that particular usage what it is you need to do. But if you have blossom end rot, I guarantee you need calcium. How you put the calcium on is over a period of time. You have to start now for next year.
Okay, so it's kind of too late to get it into your plants right now unless you spray it on direct.
It can only be sprayed with like the blossom end rot, which is not for the fruit that you see already there. It's for the fruit that's about to set.
That's why you spray it on the blossom before.
Well,
it makes
you're
fruit.
actually spraying the whole plant.
Oh,
It's
I see.
absorbed right through the foliage.
Okay.
Now, the problem with our plants is there's not enough foliage left to absorb,
Right, okay.
So it's going to be absorbed from the root structure, and you can get some on the stem
Spray it on
because
the
it's soft
soil,
stem.
or-
Yeah, but most of our greens we might have 300, 400 green tomatoes out there. I guess.
I know, and I've got to get out there and cut some kale. We've got kale and Swiss chard.
I love the
It's
Swiss chard,
beautiful.
but this time of the year, greens get bitter.
Oh, do they?
Oh, yeah. So what you do is you just boil the water off once.
Okay.
Throw that water away. You just throw away the bitter. Okay?
Okay.
Butter takes the bitter out of most everything.
Oh, you got to love some butter now.
Bitter. Bitter butter. And
No
so
bitter butter.
if you cook with a little bit of butter, because I don't really like that margarine crap,
Well,
and
I
I
like
think it's
olive
bad for
oil,
you.
but I do like
Olive
to take
oil is
a
all right,
little
but
bit of
throw
butter.
a little bit
won't
of butter
kill
in
you.
there
Come on.
and just sweat them down some. And the Swiss chard is just, I love Swiss chard. And I like it with a little bit of vinegar. And I have, out of the 10 or 12 people this year that I provided Swiss chard to, the majority of them said they had never eaten it ever before in their life.
I hadn't eaten it, and I was resistant to it, and then I ate it, and I said, "This is better than spinach."
Oh,
There's none of
it
that
is
bitter,
fabulous.
but
And you cut it, it keeps growing. You cut it, it keeps growing. You
Yep.
cut it, it keeps growing. And kale is just like that too. Now, there's not, just one type of kale.
Yeah, we've got two.
We have two. There's about
my yoga
7.
instructor, she likes the one that not the curly cute leaf, that other one that's kind of bumpy.
Yeah, that other one.
Yeah,
that was
the other
That's
kind of
what
kale.
it is. But they're very resilient. They'll grow right on through the summer. You just keep cutting the leaves and.
Now I have a question. Who has been cutting all these leaves and picking all these tomatoes for the last 2 weeks I've been gone?
Oh, it ain't been me. It's been Linda.
Nobody? Oh, Linda.
Linda has been
there,
coming out
Linda?
with her
Good,
gang, and
okay.
they've been doing some picking because we had
Hi, Linda.
quite
Thank
a surplus.
you. I appreciate that. You have
And,
to come out and help me clean up. I don't know what's
At
going
the
on.
at the garden doctor yard, at our yard, we have blackberries, and we have vining blackberries everywhere.
The
Trellis.
raspberries were just starting when I left.
But there's no fruit on the blackberries.
Oh.
There's just a little bit down
I saw
here.
a few, yeah.
And that's down where the snow covered them up to that
okay.
point.
I only been out in the yard
And
for
they were
about 10
insulated
minutes today.
because
so.
they produce on old cane.
Okay.
Most everything that's there now is new cane. So there's no fruit on there.
see.
The raspberries, however, were prolific this year because they can take a hard hit and keep on
Is there
coming.
a bunch out there I can pick now?
Yeah, there is, but they're
Okay.
starting to thin down. But you're
Okay.
going to have another set come on.
Because these are the continuous producers.
When you
right?
have a lot of rain, raspberries kind of melt down.
Okay, right.
They
yeah.
hold their
Gonna
fruit
get
better
mush.
in the heat, and they really don't do well in a lot of rain.
I was
So you got
hoping
to
for
pick.
some raspberries. When I was in New Hampshire, I was able to pick a whole bunch of blueberries and made a blueberry
Oh, the blueberries
pie.
up there as big as your thumb.
Well, I was collecting the little wild ones and the big round ones. And I did. I collected enough to make a pie for me and Dad, and your brother Eddie came over, had a piece of blueberry pie that I made at
I didn't
home.
get
It
no
was
blueberry
awesome.
pie. Do you see
But
me
yes,
with blueberry
it
pie?
is berry season, no doubt about that.
Yeah, blackberries. We go up there in the mountains. I can remember picking. The power lines were always a famous
They were
place.
just starting to turn dark when they're all set there, but they're
Now they
just
spray
starting to
and
ripen.
poison the power line, which is terrible because it affects the brooks and everything. But they used to literally cut the power lines, and they had these big saw blades, and they would go across there. And when they were all done mowing the power lines with these giant weed eater saw blade looking things, and the next year the blackberries would start coming on, and then for the next 5 or 6 years we'd have this awesome pick of blackberries and raspberries all up over the mountains.
As long as you don't run into a bear.
Well, that was what the fun thing. We would always bang the pans when we went in to feed or to pick because there's something else in there feeding, and you can't see in these patches.
Yeah.
You actually set underneath them and just rake down the berries. And we have on a number of occasions, not just once or twice, but I'd say 20, 30% of the
I
time.
think you was telling me at one time
We'd
with
stand up and look, and there'd be a bear standing up and
Aunt
looking.
Bonnie and
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the berries went everywhere. But,
well, guess what?
I'm not quite done with tomatoes,
Oh,
but
you're
and then
not
I'll let
done.
you get
Okay.
into that. People make the mistake of putting tomatoes too close together. They have to have air circulation.
Yep.
You have to have distance between them. The branches of the tomato plants should not touch. As a matter of fact, there should be, at complete and full maturity, 2 foot between the branches.
Really?
The reason for that is now disease, if this plant gets disease, cannot
won't
be
contaminate.
conducted.
Okay.
It generally will not go down through the root structure. There's plenty of room for air circulation. You can have more blossom, you'll have more fruit, and you'll have a lot more healthy foliage without the issues of overcrowding.
And that's hard to figure when you're first starting these little tiny plants that you need this much space between them.
They should be 4 foot.
to give you
4
plenty
foot.
of room.
Yes, so
And
you got
this,
plenty of room.
we
And then
grew
they
'em-
should be staked. Don't let them grow and say, I'm going to stake them later.
And these cages, I think, are useless. What we have used, because they're only this big, but our tomatoes.
The new cages are like this, but really one of the better cages is just take
The fence works
Take
good.
the fence, cut it into lengths, put an
And the wire works pretty good. The 2 stakes with the wire across.
Yeah, we run some fences. We run a stake over here and a stake over there, and then we run some
Yep.
heavier gauge wire across, and then let the
You
tomatoes
just kind of
grow up
tie
through
it to that, and as it gets taller, it's
And
not going
I
anywhere.
pick up used sections of chain link fence and
That
set
works
them up.
really well,
That works pretty
yes.
good. But it's important to give them the space to make sure they got the nutritional base to get them in the full sun where there's good air circulation. They like to have a minimum of 8 hours of sun
And
a
they
day.
need to be picked when they're ripe.
And they need to be picked and cleaned up underneath. You can't let a bunch of dead fruit lay down underneath the bottom of it. And
That's a problem with the cherry tomatoes.
cut
I
off
noticed.
cut off any of the damaged or bad fruit. You want to mulch. Mulch is very important, and if you can put down red plastic and then put a little bit of straw over the top of it, red plastic has been proven to increase the development.
Red plastic.
Red
Where
plastic.
on earth do you get red plastic?
You can buy red plastic. You go to the red plastic store.
What do you cut up a bunch of red Solo
I don't
cups or
know.
something?
Yeah, there you go. Solo cups.
I've never
Late
seen
Solo
red
cups.
plastic.
There is red plastic. I bet you that you could probably find it in town because there's people around here that carry a lot of odd and weird things.
I guess.
And black plastic is what I use on almost everything else, except when I'm trying to cook the soil. If you have a section of soil that you have had a problem with diseases, I don't care what kind of plant you're growing in there, you need and it starts to die off. You want to catch it in the summertime, right now, as a matter of fact, because you only got about 2 weeks of this heat left. Rip all that stuff out of there, expose the dirt, put down a piece of clear plastic, nail it down, and let it cook the soil.
Suffocate it.
It'll cook it. It'll literally cook the disease right out of the
Now,
soil.
will that kill that cutworm or whatever it was getting on our zucchini one
It
year?
will decrease that population.
Okay.
Now, I have had to resort to some chemicals that I used a season long, but I did it in the fall, and I plowed it down, and it killed out the insects and the ones that we were having problems with. And then by the next year, when I got ready to plant, I think most of the residual was gone out of there.
We hate
so.
to use many chemicals.
I try to
because
use
of our
almost
little dog,
nothing.
but,
I let
No, we don't
by the way,
always-
look at
oh,
my
look.
wife's
They're
beautiful.
falling apart. They were beautiful before they got in a 90
These are
degree
teddy
car.
bears.
Yes, look
and
at that.
we had some massive giant sunflower
sunflowers.
this year. We
Oh.
grow a lot of
Now,
different
what have we
sunflower.
got going on up here?
This is
Obviously,
a cucumber.
It's
and
a well ripened one.
yeah, but this is not a cucumber to throw away, even though
I
it's
would
yellow.
pick that and throw it right out in the field.
Well, the raccoons like them,
Yeah.
but this makes excellent bread and butter. Matter of fact, that's preferred for bread and butter. This for
bread
me
and
is
butter pickles.
bread and butter pickles. Yeah, this is way too large for me, but my aunt will chunk this up, and she makes a delicious cucumber
Well, she
out of
makes
this.
relish.
And all different types of cucumbers out of this cucumber. I like the rough, gnarly. I don't like the straight 8 smooth, goofy looking things. I like the rough, gnarly, the old-fashioned pickling
Now
tomatoes.
this is gorgeous. Actually, this is a yellow zucchini.
Yeah, yellow zucchini. There's really no flavor to either one of these zucchinis. I don't know if you can see this one due to the green
Does that show
green machine. We don't know. We don't
Yeah,
care.
he says yes.
All right, so, but this one, again, don't throw this away. My wife cuts this in half, scoops out the middle,
You can make
and
zucchini boats.
she
make
makes
a stuffing.
Yeah,
with
she
the,
she puts whatever in it. You put tuna in it. You put
You can
whatever
put
you want.
hamburger meat in a box of stove top and chopped up onions.
Throw it in the oven,
tomatoes.
and the flavor that this has is the flavor that you give it. It doesn't really come with any flavor. And again, this makes fabulous chunked up pickles.
Now, if you cut this up and take out the seeds and take off the skin, you can do the meat in a shredder, and it's great for zucchini bread. And then I also got a recipe where you shred it and you mix a couple of eggs with it, a little bit of flour, some cheese, and you actually make a pizza crust out of the shredded zucchini meat. Remember I made that a few weeks ago when James was here.
Oh, yeah.
My grandson was here. And you didn't know it was zucchini. He didn't know it was zucchini. I made a pizza crust out of it.
We made lasagna out of this one year.
Yep, that's right. Sliced it real thin.
Sliced
with
it real
like
thin.
A cheese slicer
Yep,
or a
and
knife.
did it in layers and
Use
so
it as
forth.
lasagna noodles. Sure.
There's-
There's a lot of things you can do now because you're not going to saute this in the frying pan. So, but you can use it.
There's a lot of unusual tomatoes out
that's
there.
beautiful.
And I grew I grew a strawberry tomato this year. And this particular one is not the strawberry tomato. This is a hybrid Roma. Instead of being solid meat that has the seeds in it, tip it up there so they can see. Just like a regular tomato, only it's in this form. Instead of being a cherry tomato, this is an elongated one. It's a neat tomato. Now the strawberry tomato actually has a little bit, if you go, this tastes like a strawberry. It really doesn't. It has
There's
a
like a tomato.
little bit of a flavor
That
like
is
a strawberry.
delicious.
This one here is an old-fashioned gnarly variety. It's a heritage variety that I really like. It gets up to about like this size. It usually has very few issues as far as
Just
disease.
cut those parts out.
Yeah, you just cut out a part or two out of there. And
What's going on with that one? There?
I brought that in because of the green top. A lot of people are telling me that they're cracking on the top and they're having real issues with their tomatoes.
Yeah, we've had some that aren't the most beautiful on top, but I just cut that part out.
Well, the cracking on top is usually from two things. It is from over-fertilization or over-watering or watering from the top. They don't like to be watered from the top. Now, of course, when it rains, that's where the water comes from.
So you mean just water the base?
Water
of
the base
soil.
only and mulch it and let them dry out. They want to be dry, and I'm talking about really wilted down, and then give them a
Before you
shot of
water.
water. You think because it's full of water that it needs a lot of water to do that, but that's not really the case. They like to dry out, and they have this tremendous capacity for collecting all of the moisture.
Well, I'm dying
in the
to
morning
try
dew.
one of the watermelons we grew. You said they were good?
They were fabulous. Yeah, they're full of seeds, which I don't buy.
No, they're the
That doesn't bother me.
old-fashioned kind with the seeds. We'll grow seedless next year, but they
Then I
they
grew some
grow.
peppers for my son and my daughter-in-law.
How did those come out?
Oh my goodness! I made the mistake of grabbing
Oh,
one
some
that.
of them are really hot.
Yeah, I grew-
habaneros.
Well, I've got some habaneros. I've got some of the new firecracker.
I just wanted some yellow banana
I've
peppers. You
got
some
a
of
few
those?
yellow bananas, but that's the problem. I've got a yellow banana over here, and then this one over here is called the I
Yellow
forget.
firecracker.
Something like that. I grabbed a hold of that thing and thought I was going to do a little munching.
No.
My son, for some reason, can eat hot food and doesn't bother him.
and he
but
likes it.
I'm having
have
some
no
serious
taste
issues.
for it, no.
Oh, by the way, I ran into 4 people this past week, and I said, I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to answer your question. Call me on the show.
That was nice.
And they said, "Oh yeah, we'll do that." Well, you know what?
The phone's not
do not hear a
ringing.
phone ringing. And as a matter of fact, I talked to somebody right out in the parking lot. Not this parking lot, but down at the gas station where we're getting the
Right,
water. And they said, I'm going straight home and I'm going to dial the phone. So I don't know. Maybe we got the phones. Maybe the lightning struck these phones as well. I don't know. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about. And
We
what
do.
is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow is National Dog Day for your little dog. It's Toby's day, I guess. I don't
We'll have
have
a
dog.
parade.
I gotta share your dog.
We'll have a parade.
I don't have my little girl anymore,
Oh.
but tomorrow is National Dog Day. I don't know what you're supposed to do with your dog or do about this holiday.
Did you see on the news?
Call in sick to work and play with your dog.
There you go. This lady went down to get some kind of a pastry that they're making. What was that pastry? Do you remember what that thing was?
No.
There was some pastry that they were making that looked like a hot dog, and she's bringing home this hot dog looking thing to feed to her dog. I think that's cannibalism.
I don't know.
that's-
Well, I have a parrot that eats chicken, and that's what I said. And I love scrambled eggs, too, actually. And Bird's getting along great with Dad, so that's working out really well.
I wanted to make the point that when you water your garden or when you water your plants, it's different than when it rains. When it rains, Mother Nature has enough sense to hold an umbrella over the sun. And when she's watering, the sun is not beating down on these plants, and because the issues are you're magnifying the sun, the power of the sun, through the water into these leaves, and you can really burn a hole through them. So, but if you're watering early in the morning, when there is not the hot burning sun, that's doing much better, but you do not want to water from the top on tomatoes. Peppers, I haven't found it to be that much difference. Cucumbers and so forth, I found that if you water with hot water, which means the water that's laying in the hose, I water the cucumbers first. They seem to really, I don't know if this is just my imagination or not,
Right.
really,
It's
but they
psychological
seem
or-
to do better with the hot water because our water is quite cold than they do with the cold water. And it also seems, this also could be in my mind, that the cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, Swiss chard, all of those crops do better with the cold water. So, and it would make sense if they actually did because they're cold weather crops.
I
Now,
don't know. Now, I
it's
saw out in
time.
the garden, in our flower garden, that you had put in a couple of new rows of daylilies. So are you still dividing? What are you doing out
we're
there?
still digging, dividing, and planting. Hey,
dividing.
is there someone on the phone that wants to talk to the garden doctor?
Yes, there is.
What are you doing, Forrest? I just talked to
Not much.
What is this?
Forrest.
Nobody is calling me. So I guess the phones are working. What's up with you, my man?
Oh, Oh, nothing much. I was just seeing, I'm doing a lot of trimming right now. I was just seeing what kind of fertilizer, or do I need to put any fertilizer down, and
You know, a lot of
what
people.
should I do?
Back in the day when I used to trim 250 homes, every home that we trimmed, we would fertilize with granular fertilizer. And at least once or twice a year, people would come out and they would say, "What are you doing? Here you are cutting my bushes and you're putting down fertilizer so that you got to come back and cut them again?"
No,
Well, that's not
the
how it
point,
works.
no.
It's vital that you put down fertilizer when you trim, because you're trimming and you're taking away the plant's natural ability to replace the nutrients back into the soil as it sheds its needles or leaves or foliage. We rake that up and haul it away. If we don't facilitate that by fertilizing, then the problem that we're going to run into is we're going to deplete those plants. And you can see this happening all over town.
That makes sense.
If you see the plants getting weaker and weaker every year when they're trimmed, they're not being fertilized. And they're not being fertilized with the proper products either. There are, and you know, because I've tried to beat this into your head with something stronger than this little flower here, that if it's a rhododendron, it has to have the aluminum sulfate and the amir acid and all of that business. And if it's an iron deficient plant, it's got to have some iron. The time to do that is when you trim, when you're there to do the annual trimming and maintenance. Throw down the fertilizer. So the answer to the question is definitely, positively.
Definitely.
And I use real cheap fertilizer, just a triple 12, whatever I can get my hands on.
How much is a perfect amount to use on a
Oh,
record
here we
trim?
go with a perfect amount.
A handful?
You know, if you had a plant that was 2 foot square, I would say that you want to put a half a cup of fertilizer around the root structure. So if you've got a plant that's 3 foot square, then I would go with 3/4 to a full cup. But most houses,
Does it make a difference from the hard winter that we had?
the hard rain.
The hard winter that we had
Oh, the hard winter.
last year?
Sure.
'Cause some of the bushes
yes.
are browned out and everything, and look, you know.
There you go. That really does make a difference. If you've got shrubs, you only have one shot in most of these houses. You go there once, you do their trimming, and you want it to look good for the whole entire year, and so do they. So you never do your trimming before the 4th of July. That's just really foolishness. You're actually setting this customer up to be disappointed because you're trimming too early, and all of the growth is going to happen during July and August, and you're going to have to come back and trim again to make it look like anything. And you're also double hitting these plants, and they really don't like that. So, and I forgot what his question was.
Oh, about the winter, hard winter.
Yeah, the hard winter. The hard winter was not as hard on some plants as you might think. We thought we lost a lot of roses. In fact, we counted up the number of roses that are on jobs that we have done in the past or fool around with now, and that you do and so forth. All over Connorsville, I think we came to up to 161 roses. We lost one.
Is that it?
And the reason we lost that one was because of age, not because of winter.
No kidding.
But we don't let the roses go into the winter dry. We always go out there in
Right.
November and we
Even
hustle
though it's
around.
getting cool out, you're like, we got to give the plants a really
We
good
got to
drink
give the
here.
roses a good drink in the fall, and so. But your question was, should we fertilize? If the hard winter make a difference where we should fertilize? If the plant is still looking bad right now, you have one shot at making it look better, and that would be to fertilize it more than you normally would. Give it a double shot. If it comes out of it, it does, and if it doesn't, you haven't really lost very much. Thank you, son, very much. When are we going fishing?
Like, really, I was just going to ask
As
that.
soon as possible.
All right, already. I have not
Hey,
caught
the
a fish this year.
smallmouth
Not
were
since
really,
spring.
really looking good. The river was looking good. Now we've got this flooding rain. I don't know. But we'll have to give it a shot. I got a boat that's only been on the water once.
I've
so-
never even been in it.
Well, deer season's coming close too, so we
I
better hurry up on
know,
the fishing.
fuck crying out
I
loud.
know.
I got moose season in New Hampshire.
He's supposed to go get a moose in October.
Love you very much. We will see you
All
probably
right.
tomorrow.
Love you guys.
Love you,
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
I guess the phones are working. But I ran into people all over town. Oh my gosh, I got to call in and I got to do that. Yeah, you know what? You people apparently don't know what day it is, what time it is, or something. I don't know what's the matter with you.
Yeah,
but,
it's kind of just us sitting here.
yeah,
and
that's it.
them in the
Give us
control
a
booth
holler.
there, and
we're
gets lonely.
Yeah, call us. We want to talk to you. So, let's see. Did I cover everything on the tomatoes? You know, tomatoes are I wrote an entire book. I think you've seen the booklet.
Yeah, the love apple.
The Love Apple booklet.
Yep.
Yeah, I did research for months to put together a book, and I was shocked at the history and all of everything that goes into the tomatoes. But when I travel around, if I'm in Newcastle or I'm in Greenwood or over in Dayton or wherever I am, I try to stop into small nurseries and browse through their vegetables and fruits. And I always find weird stuff. I find like the
Now,
black
weird
tomato.
stuff finds you.
Yeah, weird stuff finds me. Well, look at this. The black tomato, the snowball tomato, and a lot of these are curiosities. They're not. You do not want to eat this stuff. Oh my gosh, that snowball
my.
tomato tastes terrible.
But it's cool to look at.
It's cool to look at, and it's cool to grow. And so now I've got the strawberry tomato that I'm growing this year. It's
cool to
not
look
quite
at.
ready yet. And then I've got another one. I've got a pineapple tomato. Now the pineapple tomato I used to have years ago, and I've lost the seed. I don't know how many years
Does it
ago.
taste like pineapple?
Yes, it
No,
does. It
I
has
don't believe it.
and it actually looks almost like a pineapple.
I don't believe
yes,
it.
it does. Has a little bit. You have to go.
Yeah, right. That's the strawberry. If you
psych yourself into it. But I always try to find these freaks and uniques and grow them and see what they've got to offer. And then if there's something going on there, I repeat it. Every year I say I'm cutting way down on this garden business.
Yes, I know.
And every year I
it
grow
keeps
50
getting
of them.
bigger, I think.
We had a bunch of other questions come in. What
Yeah,
was
I did
the?
have a few. I printed them out and tried
Holy
to.
crap!
There is a creeping, wiry grass in my lawn. What is it, and how do I get rid of it?
Most of your weed controls are not specifically designed for controlling grass in grass, and but you
that's
can
the
do
grass,
that. Because when you're targeting weeds, 99% of what you're targeting is broadleaf. But there are products that specifically target the weed. Now, it's very important that you know what the weed is. If it's quack grass, goose grass, barnyard grass, right now we're getting nutsedge is a real problem in this area. I don't know what the motivation or the cause is, but it's in almost everybody's yard. It's real easy to pull. It has this little cluster of seed on the top of it. It grows in our flower beds all the time. But there's a specific product for killing nutsedge. And so if you know what you have, you can identify that by going online or going to the library, getting a book, find out what it is that you have, and then look for a product that kills specifically that, not a weed and feed, because normally a granular will not cover that issue. And you'll have to apply it with a pump sprayer. A word of caution about anything you put into a pump sprayer or a hose-on applicator, the residual stays in that product or
like
in that
the smell
container.
of fish in a plastic bowl, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's made of plastic, and if you use it for Roundup, and then
Or
you
weed
wanna,
control of any kind.
Right, turn around and use it for fertilizer or something else.
Yeah, that's not a good idea
Very
unless
bad.
you use a neutralizer. And they do make a neutralizer, but really just
for
mark
us,
it.
it's been just as easy to have one for killer and one for fertilizer. One's good,
and
one's
one
bad.
for insecticide, fungicide,
Right.
nematicide, and all of that sort
you
of
just
business.
really can't use the same sprayer and
You
get
really
it out
should,
completely.
and you have to be very, very careful. If you don't use 100% of this product, you're pumping it up, spraying all of this stuff, and it's weed control, or it's a fungicide, or it's an insecticide. Don't leave it laying around, because children can pull that trigger, tip it over, whatever. You want to use up that product. So it's best to make it in gallons or 2 gallons, depending on how much garden you have, and use it all up, and then lock up what is left.
So what's the creeping, wiry stuff in his yard?
I'm not really sure, but I'm not sure if it's probably nutsedge, but I'm not really
Okay.
positive what it is.
Okay.
So, but you just have to identify it. It's hard to do over the television. You know, I see you holding it up there, but that's not. Can't really see that good. But
Okay, I have another comment. Actually, more than it's not so much a question. I took your advice and I mowed my lawn to 3.5 inches and only mowed every other week. Once I even went 3 weeks. I had more free time, a greener, healthier lawn that I did not have to apply weed killer to, and my lawn is gorgeous. Thank you very much. Too bad it only took 20 years to convince me.
I know exactly who this person is. And let me tell you something. Sends me this nice letter by dropping it in my mailbox and doesn't put his name on it. Like, I don't know who I have been trying to beat in the head and tell him for 20 years
He
to
knows
mow
who
his
you
lawn
are.
higher. And he, you can't do that and all of this stuff. Well, he finally did it. I saw him out fishing more. I've seen him playing golf more because he's not out there mowing his lawn when you don't need to be mowing
Constantly mowing.
it. When did we last mow our lawn? When did you go?
I've been gone
A week
2
before,
weeks,
2
3
weeks before you left. I haven't mowed my lawn for almost a month.
It needs it now,
It
no
needs
doubt.
it. Yeah.
It needs it.
And
but
we'll
it's-
go through and we'll mow it about 4 inches, 3.5, 4 inches. There are no weeds out there.
No, not many.
There's
no.
hardly any
A couple
weeds.
of patches where it gets too much shade. There's a few weeds.
Yeah, that's a creeper that comes
Yeah,
in.
I've got
I
this
don't
one
care.
creeper
It's green.
that's coming out of the bed into
Yeah,
the
it's green. Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't mind.
It really, if you mow higher, if you mow less often, if you make sure you've got a disinfected, sharp mower when you are mowing, you're going to decrease all of that work. And it shades itself, it provides its own nutrients, it chokes out the weeds. It's beneficial all the way around. Oh, I had another question about moles, and I do believe on the next show I'm going to try to bring this in and show you, because there is actually a product that finally has been reported to control moles. We've
shotgun?
used this. Yeah. Well, you know what? They used to do that. You used to have time. You go out there, you drink your coffee in the morning, you sit there in a chair, and you wait for the moles to go across the yard, and you bow.
You know,
and they
I
literally
was this
did it.
close to having Tiny.
They literally
trained.
used to do it.
I'm sure, but Tiny was almost trained. I had her so close to finding and digging up moles.
When I had the nursery, there was 2 neighbors of mine that had been there for years, and I saw him sit down in his front yard with a shotgun, and I had no idea what he was doing. And he had a double barrel. He boom, boom, got 2 moles and held them up. Okay, fine. Well, you know, you're in Connorsville. You might have been downtown, but that's 21st Street. But there is a new product. I'm gonna make sure that it's not something bogus. And it's a
check it out
gas.
first.
It's
gas.
a fumigant where you
Okay.
light the top and it fumigates the thing. We've had these around before, but they've never really worked. This one is professed to work very well. So, and that's a big problem. Let me tell you, those things will tear you up. But I know who this guy is.
This guy.
This guy.
These
I got
guys.
this guy.
Apparently, you wrote a note to yourself.
My
And
note
the
to self.
The garden doctor only has 1 apple in a grove of 15 apple trees.
Oh yeah.
And the rabbits have gnawed on
the trunks.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
you know.
what's going on with
Well,
that?
I sprayed the trunks. I put these new apple trees out. I've got a row of kiwis.
We have kiwi fruit.
Kiwi fruit is coming on them like crazy. They came through.
Everything's
through
growing.
that winter, and so everything was great. We've got Jeff on the
We'll
line.
talk about the apples in
We're
just a
going to
minute.
go straight to Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Good.
Hey.
What can we do for you, my man?
I got a question about hens and chickens.
Okay. Go ahead.
What should I do about hens and chickens in the wintertime?
They don't have to come inside. They're very hardy. Some people leave them in a one of those layered pots. They just stick them in a pot, and they will survive like that. They do prefer to be in the ground.
Yeah, I have 2 pots that did not survive this last winter, as harsh as it was.
And I believe they would have survived if they had been wet. if they had been watered before they went into the winter,
Maybe covered
and
with straw. or
covered with
something.
straw.
But yeah, they
yes.
were just out in the open, and those are the only only hens and chicks that didn't come back.
But if they're in the ground, they should be fine. We did have some other people report that the ones that they had that were up on stone in different places, they did lose some of those. But we try to put about 3 or 4 inches of straw over the top just to hold the moisture
insulate
in.
'em.
You don't want any more than 3 or 4 inches because you'll create an environment for mice and moles and little creatures that you really don't want in there.
Yeah, but if there's any way you can protect them over the winter, that's
Just
helpful.
a little
but-
bit of straw, and try not to locate them in a place where you're going to be throwing salt from cleaning off a sidewalk or something. They're not really great when it comes to salt. You know, there's a lot of plants that are negatively affected by salt, and this is a real problem. If you live along a road or you have a driveway or a sidewalk that's gonna be treated with salt, make sure you check and and identify those plants that'll
Yeah,
grow
I've
there.
seen shrubs and plants along the sides of curbs and where in the city that get hit with the salt pretty hard, and you could tell.
My wife has a collection of hens and chickens.
I do.
Some that come from New Hampshire. I bought her some big red ones. There's a new one out that's a real dandy. It's got striped foliage. They've been doing a lot of
Quite a few
hybriding
different
with
ones.
hens
Yeah,
and chickens.
I love them.
Anything else for you?
Yes. Yes. I have a bunch of hens and chickens outside,
Uh-huh.
and they ain't coming out and hanging down.
Oh,
So can I retransfer them to a bigger pot?
Yes, you can. You
Yes.
can snip off the babies. They actually have the young just come all over the sides and they just hang down over the sides.
ew, it's like a root there.
Just take a pair of snips and snip that off and push it into the soil of another pot, and you can bring them inside as well as grow them outside because they do work as a houseplant, but they do like to go through a cold spell, so you probably would want to have them on a porch or something like that. Okay?
Yeah, transplant them. You'll have a whole bunch of
But
them.
you definitely can
Thank
cut them
you.
off. Thank you very much for
Thanks
your
for
call. We
calling.
appreciate your call. Hens and chickens are neat.
I know, I love them. You know, the ones I got from New Hampshire, my mother actually brought there from Tennessee when we went down to Tennessee to visit her
Yeah,
mother.
that's
they've
kind of
been
neat.
around a long time.
The ones that are out at now, I may be wrong. This may be the holly that is at Evelyn Wilson's. I believe the hens and chickens that she had though came from the White House.
Wow.
They weren't supposed to.
Oh, Evelyn, what did you do?
The Secret
can-
Service is going to get her.
She wants a little
One
snip
of the
of something.
plants came from the White House, and I'm trying to remember which one it was and the heritage of it. And all of her plants have a history. It's so
And
neat
she knows
to
what it
visit
is,
with
too.
her.
She's sharp as a
And she celebrated a birthday here recently, and so did Roberta Welch.
Oh, my.
And
Happy birthday.
up in their
Don't-
very
don't-
young, very
I was
young,
gonna say,
very
don't
young.
mention people's age. It's
Oh,
not
and
polite.
don't. When they get over, you know.
What? Yeah, who defines when?
I'm not
it's
going to go
okay?
there. I'm not going to go there.
That's
Both of
not
them
very
beautiful
nice.
ladies, though. I can tell you that.
Oh, note here about putting down grass seed.
Oh yeah, this is the time to get started on your fall gardening and to put your grass seed down. To put down if you're not putting grass seed, to put your last weed and feed down. So you want to get going now because you have to get 3 leaves on that grass seed in order for it to go through the winter. If you don't get those 3, doesn't make any difference how green it is, how gorgeous it is, it will die. It won't make it through the winter.
Do we have enough time yet?
Oh
for
yeah,
that?
plenty of
Okay.
time. If you do it right now, get it on in the next few days where you benefit from this unbelievable rains that we're having, and hopefully you don't get a gully washer like they did up north there. Did you see that 10 inches while you were
I
gone?
heard about it. Yes, I did.
9.7 or 9.8. Holy moly. That's
That's
enough
a lot
to
of
grow
rain.
rice for crying out loud.
Yeah, really. I can't believe.
Monsoon season.
Were the rivers really high and?
Not here. They really didn't. We didn't get hit to the north of us, they got hit at Muncie, but in Richmond they got a good amount, but it has to hit between Richmond and here for this river to swell.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know if you guys had had any flooding because of
or
it.
Cambridge City. Now, this one that comes through Connorsville is fed. We know we've been all the way to the
Oh,
roots of
yes,
it.
we have every foot of it.
We have fished that the river that comes through Connorsville all the way from the top to the bottom, and I can tell you it was a sad day when my wife first come to town and I showed her the river and I said, this is one of the cleanest rivers in the state of Indiana. And then 20 years later, we're out there and we see these signs and warnings: don't expose your skin, don't eat the fish. It's very sad. I thought we were moving in the right direction, and then this kind of nonsense. The bloom that's on Brookville Lake, we know how to fix it. We
This
know what
algae.
the cause of it.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough ambition to go after it.
Well.
We have another caller. Yes, what can we do for you?
I have about 24 dozen tomato plants, and every one of them is rotting at the bottom of the tomato when it gets ripe.
Yeah, that's blossom end rot, and it's probably. Have you grown tomatoes in this particular location before?
Yes.
It's probably a carryover disease that's in the soil, but the primary issue when you have rot at the bottom of the tomato is blossom end rot. You can solve that slightly if you make a solution with calcium and spray it on the foliage, which is the same thing that they do with a product called blossom end rot spray. What was that called anyway?
I thought it was called blossom
Yeah,
end
it's
rot.
blossom end.
Really.
You can buy it at the store. Now that's absorbed through the foliage, and it only benefits the fruit that has not been set yet. So any green fruit that's of about quarter size, it's not going to benefit. But what you can do, as we were speaking of earlier, is treat that area with the lime now, so that it will work its way into the soil for next year, and then treat it again in the spring so that you get the calcium level to where it should be, because the blossom end rot is caused primarily by one single thing, and that is the deficiency of calcium. Now, the other thing that affects that dramatically is if the plants are overwatered. They tend to, or if they're too close together, they don't have enough room for the root structure to convert the calcium that it needs per plant. So if they're planted too close together, they tend to burn the calcium out of the ground. It takes about 3 years, and if it's not replaced, once it's depleted, then every one of the tomatoes produced on there will have blossom end rot. So calcium, liquid calcium sprayed on now. Granular calcium, pelletized lime,
For next year.
and I like to, if you can, find the two different types. You get one at the Farm Bureau, farm store, and one at the like Gilman's and places like that. You know, the Dolomite, and the other one, I can't even think of what the other one is. It's just not registering. But that way you're providing it with both that you need. And if you're going, that's a lot of tomato plants. Boy, that's a sad day when you invest, the whole season, and you're getting down to the end, and every one of them got a rotten spot on the end. Yeah, that's. I visited a garden about 25 years ago where there was over 100 plants, and they were raising them for the purpose of sale. They had a truck farm there, and we tested the soil, and they had the crops that had been grown on there before were very high usage calcium, and they had just depleted it, and that was the end result. So. Thank you very much for your call, and I hope we answered part of your question. You're going to get ready for next year. Unfortunately, the only thing you can do this year is put a spray on
I
there.
hope you get some good tomatoes.
Any other question we can help you with?
Roses.
All right, yes. What can I do for you?
Why you go with roses?
Hello.
What was that? I didn't catch it.
Roses.
Roses.
Flowers.
Yeah, the roses this year, a lot of people thought they had lost them, but they are a lot stronger than people gave them credit for. They just didn't wait long enough for them to come up out of it. But roses need to be fertilize now for the blossom that you're going to have next year. This is the latest, though. I normally fertilize my roses in May, and then again in June, and then again the first part of August. And but I don't want to fertilize them too late because you cause them to grow through the winter. I don't want them to grow. I just want those nutrients to be available into the soil. Do you have a specific problem with the rose?
No, I like roses.
Roses are very easy to grow if you stay with the new varieties. Look for a rose that says on it carefree or low maintenance, and one of the best roses to buy is the knockout rose, and it comes in white, pink, red, double red, and double pink, but I like the singles better than the doubles. The doubles are a smaller blossom and they're not as glowing as the other ones, so I buy the single knockouts. They're very carefree. You don't have to worry about them. Put them in the
I'm
ground.
amazed with those. They just continue and bloom, and
But
they're
they
beautiful.
do want to be planted right. You want to untangle the roots. You want to dig a big hole. You want to mix in the peat moss. And you really want to give it a full sun, as much sun as
They
you can.
love the sun, and they like lots of water too.
Lots of water.
Yeah.
Lots of water.
But they don't require too much spray for the old roses used
Yeah.
to need insecticide, fungicide, miticide, everything, because they were susceptible to everything, it seemed
But
like.
the new roses are resistant. So if you
Yeah.
get a knockout rose, buy one. If you like pink, get the pink single, get the red single, and put it where there's some good sunlight. And right now, a lot of these places are having big sales on because it's the end of the
It
season.
is getting to the end of the season.
So
That's
go
true.
take advantage of that. I just saw a sale
Yeah.
come on at Lowell's in Richmond, and some really nice plants at half
Good.
price.
Okay.
Thank you very much
Good
for your
luck
call.
with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I did have another question about someone's mimosa, and we had talked about the mimosa tree that
Yep.
we love so much, and somebody gave me a start of one, and it did okay for a minute, but then it got neglected when I went out of town, so I don't know.
It was
if-
neglected before you went out of town.
Come
You
on.
neglected it.
I think
Somebody
so.
give you a plant in a pot? What's wrong with these people?
I know.
Just take it out and shoot it.
Sorry.
Put it in the freezer
I
and
think I've
kill
killed it. But somebody had asked, their mimosa said it came up from the bottom only. They wanted to know if that means it's dead at the top?
No,
or-
that means it's alive.
Okay.
The top of
Yeah,
a
one of
mimosa
those.
does not grow here. But
But it grows here.
we're changing our climate zone, and people have successfully grown mimosa in Connorsville, much to my surprise, shock, and amazement, for 25, 30 years. I can take you to places where there is a couple of mimosa right across the street and down the street a little bit from the post office, across from the library. That is a gorgeous mimosa, one of my favorite in Connorsville. And it didn't even die back this year. But I have seen years where it died right off at the ground, and they didn't take it out. They just waited to see if it would come out. It would come up from the bottom, cut it off, pick one leader, prune all the rest of them off so you got a single tree so you don't have a bush, and off you go. The root structure, if the root structure dies, that's when your plant dies. But the top can die 2 or 3 times, and it really 4 or 5 times. Your root structure will push back the top real quick. It grows amazing.
Good, good. Okay, well then hopefully it will come back.
You can, grow mimosas in this area. We also are growing crepe myrtle, which I love. That's a beautiful shrub, absolutely gorgeous. Hey, people need to get out and check out these new hydrangeas. Wow, endless summer, some of the new hydrangeas. I've been using them all over town and testing here and there, and I'm done testing. I'm using them
Wow.
everywhere. I love these things. They've got giant blossoms on them. They last most of the summer. They're very resistant to,
You know,
they
we don't
do
have
like
one
moisture.
of those in my yard, do we?
Nah, you don't need one. Go look
Not
at that in other
one.
people's yards. Well, no, you don't.
They're
No,
beautiful,
no.
beautiful.
But
Don't
she
have
has
one.
one of the most gorgeous displays of butterfly bushes.
That I do.
I have
Absolutely
about
gorgeous.
16, I think,
Oh,
or
I
17
don't
different
even
colors.
know, yeah.
There's hundreds
The
of colors.
purple, lavender,
Little
there's a
tiny
pink.
miniatures.
Yep.
There's little creepers that go on the ground.
Yep.
Look into butterfly bushes because
Beautiful.
the-
And they do attract
Oh, yeah,
butterflies.
butterflies would be
I've
everywhere.
seen huge butterflies.
This year we've had less butterflies, I think, than I've seen. I don't know why, and I should research that.
And
We've
we put
also
out
had
fruit.
less hummingbirds. So I'm not sure what's going
Now
on
I
there.
have seen some. I mean,
Yeah,
you
but
know.
not anything like I used to have. I used to
Okay.
have just whole feeders, 3 and 4 feeders full of hummingbirds, and so did my neighbor, and they were just everywhere. But there was a big kill off of hummingbirds here
It's El
recently.
Nino.
El Nino.
Global warming. El Nino.
Listen, we really enjoy bringing you this
Yes,
show,
we do.
and you guys could call a little earlier in the show, but whatever,
Thank you for
sitting
calling.
around. Thank you very much for calling in. We do appreciate it, and we enjoy seeing you out on the street. So if you see us, say hi and ask us a question. If you have a question, we'll try to answer
Sure.
it for you
Why
out there on
not?
the street. But if I go like this, that means I'm not going to answer your question. You have to call into the live
If
show.
you go like this?
Yeah, go like this.
What if you go like this?
Talk to the hand. Talk to the hand.
No, don't do that. Your New York accent is terrible.
Oh, just never mind. But we really enjoy bringing you the show, and it's been a whole lot of fun. We're very grateful for her son being well, making the trip back to Rhode Island.
Safe trip to and from.
Yep, everything is going very well there.
Yes.
In New Hampshire, most of my relatives are in pretty good shape.
Yep,
Where,
it's all
she's
good.
been up there for 2 weeks visiting with everybody while I'm down here slaving. Actually, I was
See those grandbabies next, the girls.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go check out on the grandbabies now. I
think we're out of time,
Please
just about.
try a fall garden. Don't mow your lawn as often. Take a break. Let it grow. If the neighbors
Go
say something,
fishing.
tell them your lawnmower's broke. Tell them the garden doctor said so. We love you, and we'll see you on the next Garden Doctor show. Thank you.
The Garden Doctor.